Welcome back, everybody, to the newest episode of the PenPodcast.com. I'm your host, Matthew Harms, founder of Pen for Hire, where we offer premier ghostwriting and author coaching services. Also, the creator of the Pen Podcast, where we sit with authors, writers, writing industry professionals, subject matter experts, and all around interesting people. Today, I have an unusual guest for you because it's going to be myself. Here at the Pen Podcast, we've been getting a lot of specific questions regarding all things writing, and I figured what better way to try to answer those than to do some short solo podcasts and tackle the topics that are coming in. So if you're listening and there's something that you specifically want to hear about, please reach out to us. The more common themes that we have are the ones that I'm going to try to address first. So today we're going to be talking about strategy. Strategy is not a word that a lot of people think of when it comes to writing a book. But whether it be fiction or nonfiction, strategy is really, really important because otherwise you're just putting words on paper without any plan of what's going to come next. And that doesn't give a lot of motivation, a lot of drive to finish because you don't know what you're going to do with it when it's done. So the first thing I tell everyone, whether we're doing coaching, whether we're doing ghostwriting, is you have to think about what you want to achieve from writing your book. If your answer is, Matt, hey, I just want to say I wrote a book, cool. Keep writing. When you get to the end, you will be able to say that. I kind of say that tongue in cheek because getting to the end is still no easy task. But knowing that all you want to do is get that book finished for your own peace of mind, for bragging rights, to prove that you could do it, then that's still motivation enough. But for most people, I think there's a deeper level to the strategy beyond just completing it. Okay, that goal could be to hit a bestseller list, Amazon, New York Times, USA Today. We're not going to get into how to do that here. There's defined strategies for each, but you need to know which one you want first. Maybe your goal from finishing the book is to land a new client in your business. Okay, great. We can help you with that too, but you need to start with the end in mind. After you know what your goal is, right, why you're writing the book, we need to do some research. Who are you writing the book for? If you're writing fiction, who's your ideal reader? Are you writing horror? Are you writing fantasy? Depending what the answer is, where do your target readers live? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they in certain genre type chats or Reddit groups? Same thing for nonfiction, even more so, right? Most of our nonfiction clients are looking to use their book as a business tool. So who is your ideal client that is going to benefit from reading your book? If you're a coach in the software development field, where are your ideal clients hanging out? Where do they brainstorm? Where do they network? That's crucial to knowing upfront so you can start planning how you're going to get your book in front of these people and use it to gain credibility or to potentially land new clients. Next thing you want to think about is if you already have access to your audience that you can sell the book to or promote the book in front of. If you do, that's great. You can check the box, make a list, start planning for it later. If you don't, that's something you're going to want to think about how you can start building while you're writing the book. Because if you start doing it after the book is done, you're going to lose momentum. I can tell you from personal experience, the book will sit. You either will publish it and have no results, or you won't push it to the finish line of getting it published because you won't know what to do with it. So during the writing process, that's really a good time to start thinking about the audience for your book because everything is writing, right? Even if you're not putting words on paper, thinking about the strategy while you're writing the book is still helping you in the writing process. Next thing to think about before you've written even the first word of the book is, do you have a one-sentence description of what your book's all about? You can think of it in terms of an elevator pitch, a synopsis, but one sentence, one clear, succinct sentence on what your book is about. That is really going to give you clarity for some of the questions that we just went through. When you know very clearly what your book's about, it's going to guide you to who it's for, how they can use it, and how that's all going to tie in to your definition of success. Once you have that one sentence description, start thinking about listing out all of the content that you want to include. An index, an outline. There's no right or wrong way to do this. In fact, I think a lot of people spend too much time figuring out how they can outline their book. You can do it in sticky notes. You can do it on Trello boards. You can use software programs like Scrivener. I personally just like to use a Google document and dump thoughts in there and then change the higher level thoughts to top level headers so they stand out, and then drop content underneath it. You can use pen and paper. You can use a whiteboard. You can write it on your window if you've got those special markers. Again, don't spend too much time trying to figure out how you're going to do it. Just start doing it. Once you have all of this content down, start thinking about the structure you want to use for each chapter. If you don't know what I mean by structure, go pick up some of your favorite books and see how the authors conveyed those thoughts. Sometimes authors will use case studies. Sometimes they'll do a lot of examples. They'll do worksheets. They'll do reflection questions. There is, again, no right or wrong way. The key is consistency. So if you've decided that you want to start each chapter with a story and end with an activity, that's fine. Just make sure every chapter is consistent so your reader knows what to expect. There's nothing worse than jumping around with different formats, different styles, confusing your reader. If a reader doesn't make it to the end of your book, that's not always the worst thing in the world. Sometimes people just don't finish books, and maybe they've reached out to you because they already got what they needed and they know they want to work with you. But oftentimes, if a reader doesn't finish your book, it's because you didn't do something right. Once you have that structure, make sure your outline has all of the key points that you want to hit on for each chapter. I highly advise doing that before you start writing. You will probably still identify topics and points that you didn't think of in advance during the writing process, and that's okay. But to start with no key points is most likely going to leave you staring at a blank screen and trying to figure out what you should write about. Even if it's just a handful of bullet points, it's enough to get the creative juices flowing and words on paper. And then you just go to town. Don't censor yourself. If you're going to be doing case studies to reinforce points in your nonfiction book, have those ready. Get your client's permission if it involves them to make sure that they're okay with you sharing it, or have a plan for changing the company name, the industry they operate in, or any of the specific details, just so no one can figure out who you're writing about if you don't have express permission. If you're going to go with reflection questions, or some way of making sure that your reader has retained the information, start listing those out before you write the chapter. Again, these will change. These likely will have new ones added. You might remove some as you work on the content, but having a handful of the reflection questions up front can also help you generate the content for the chapter to lead into what the reader is going to be reflecting about. And then my last and favorite question on strategy, and really this is probably the most important in terms of technically getting things done, but we save it for last because without all of the other stuff, this doesn't matter. Ready? Do you have a plan for getting the book finished in the next 6 months? I'm waiting. Okay. You might be wondering what I mean by a plan, because we just went through the entire strategy, right? You're like, Matt, you just gave me everything I need to think about. Well, let's fast forward to next week. Let's say you've sat down, you've done all of that. What do you do now? The only way this book is going to get written in the next 6 months is if you put the time on your calendar. This isn't something that you can hope to do, that you're going to try your best to do, or if I have time this weekend. The only way to finish writing a book, at least from my experience, is to make sure that you schedule your time. I had my last book in mind for well over a year. And for the first, I don't know, 11 and a half months, all it was a thought in my head because I didn't take any action. I didn't plan to get it done. It was something that was on my wish list. The shift happened when I put the time on my calendar. Just a couple 30-minute blocks every week. I use that time in the beginning just to go through the steps I shared with you here today. And then at that point, the writing took a form of its own. I actually finished the book in less than 2 months because I put the time in up front to get all of this strategy that we spoke about done. And then I scheduled the time with myself, and I did not allow myself to take it off. Now, if you have a family emergency or something drastic, I'm not saying, you should miss the birth of your first child because you have writing time on your calendar. What I am saying, though, is if your friend wants to go out for drinks because you haven't seen them in a month and you had writing time on your calendar, you should probably stick with the writing time. If you have a work event that is optional and it's your scheduled time to write, you should probably stick with the writing time. I'm not going to go through the all exhaustive list here. I think you can do the math and realize what is urgent and what is not, what is going to help you reach your goal of publishing your book and what is not. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me for that as well. That's actually a big part of what we do in our coaching is holding our clients accountable and making sure they realize what they should be focused on and what they shouldn't, and what's going to help them get to their goal and what's not. So hopefully everyone who reached out or anyone who reached out asking more about the strategy of book writing found this mini episode useful. As always, you can always reach out to me, Matt, M-A-T-T, at pen-for-hire-nyc.com. Head over to the website, pen-for-hire-nyc.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Like us on Apple Podcasts, or just leave a comment with your question. Happy to try to keep pushing out all of these answers. We have so far a decent list of topics, but we're looking for more. So thank you for tuning in to the newest episode of the Pen Podcast with your host, Matthew Harms, talking about the strategy of book writing. Have a great day. Catch you all in the next episode.